Hey everyone, Lauren from A Girl and Her Wool here. Today we are going to be doing a Crafty project update. So I'm going to be talking about all my current whips and we'll see where we're up to. So as I mentioned, as Nacho jumps up here, we are going to be talking about all my crafty objects. And if you are reading between the lines, I said crafty projects, not knitting projects. So I've been doing some crochet. So I'm going to be talking about that. I've also actually been doing a bunch of spinning, I'm going to keep that spinning in a separate vlog. I'm almost done with my first skein, and so instead of taking the bobbins off the wheel, you can't really see what's on the bobbin. I'm just going to do that in a separate spinning vlog update when that's done, probably in the next couple weeks. But I am going to be talking about all my current whips. So I have crochet, like I mentioned, and then of course some knitting and a cat. So I do post I post project highlights, my Faux Friday post, whenever I finish something. And the purpose for that is just that means that I can get more in depth on the project and kind of my experiences with it, my thought from start to finish without, you know, cramming it into a longer episode. So I like to keep those separate. I have two finished objects, two recent finished objects. So one is my Altheta sweater, and I recently posted this on a Faux Friday post. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. And you can also check out, I didn't post photos in that video, but if you go check out my blog at agirlandherwool.com, I also wrote up a blog post about it. And so you can see finished objects there as well as on Instagram. So I'm not going to talk about this, but I did want to show it because this has been the bulk of what I've been working on. I think the last time I updated everyone, it was probably about a month ago, probably more. I planned to do this a week ago, but we actually had the tropical storm that came through, so we didn't have power, and so I did not record it. So it must be over a month by now since I last updated you guys. So this is something that took up a bulk of that time. It is finished, and you can see more about that on that Faux Friday post. The other thing is, which this will be on this week's, this Friday's post, is I also finished my Magnolia socks. So these are socks that I have been knitting kind of on and off. But again, kind of, you know, if you watch that sweater, you know, I kind of just sat down and focused on it. I also just kind of sat down and focused on sock number 2, whichever is sock number 2, and got that done. So these are also done, and you can look forward to hearing more about them on Friday. So as I kind of said, I've been working pretty monogamously. I've really been focusing on one project at a time and getting it done. I don't know if that's related to kind of this pandemic living we're doing, or if it's just what it is. I've talked a lot about like using up a lot of my stash, and I'm really getting there. I've used up most of the yarn I have, other than like skeins I've purchased from trips and things, a souvenir yarn that will be for socks. But I kind of am not in a sock mojo place right now, so things are getting finished. So I think part of the reason of why I'm working monogamously is that I just haven't sat down and really planned my next projects, or picked out the yarn, or planned the yarn, and such. So I have been working on just a few projects, so I'm going to show them to you here, and then talk through kind of some upcoming projects that I plan on working on soon. So and all of these projects that I'm going to show, I cast on during my, I think, either the first cast on party or the most recent one. I actually cast on that second Magnolia sock during that cast on party, so that shows you just how quickly I actually did work on that. But for my project that I've been working on most recently, this is, like I said, well, I didn't say, but this is a crochet project. So it's going to be a rectangular Wrap, and it's just single crochets and double crochets. This is a pattern by Manos del Uruguay, and this is their yarn as well. I picked it up when my local yarn store, Knit Sheep, was doing a virtual trunk show with them, and this was a kit that they offered for that pattern. So the pattern calls for, and the pattern is free. You don't have to purchase the yarn to get it. It is on Ravelry. I don't know if they have it anywhere else. But these are mini skeins of their Fino yarn, which is 70% wool, 30% silk. And it is a single ply yarn. There's 490 yards per 100 grams. So it's a light fingering yarn. And again, these are minis. So these are 20-gram minis each. So each set came with 5 20-gram minis. The kits themselves that were offered at the trunk show, and I think the pattern itself calls to use 2 different mini skein sets, so you would still have 10 in total. I ended up buying 2 identical sets just because that's what I liked in that moment of the kits that they had. I think this one that they paired it with was very dark, and I really liked these colors, but I just really was happy to just use these. So what I've ended up doing, you'll see I have 4 colors plus a white. So I started with the pink. You knit on the diagonal and increase out, and when I finished up the pink, so I used all of that pink mini skein, I did a few rows of the white. So I used 1/4 of the skein, figuring that it would go in between each of the 4 colors, or after each one of the 4 colors. Anyway, so I'm gonna put some white in between each color, and you can see that here. So I did the pink, I did a little strip of white, and then I did the green and another strip of white. So at this point, I'm done increasing, and I'm just working it down. It's curling in a little bit, but kind of try and curl it the other way, or I'll just show it the other way. So you can kind of see it's got the right corners and it's going down. I'm working in the purple now, and then I'll do the white as well. So they're not big white strips, but just little separators. I figured that would look nicer than just having a whole block of white at some point. So it'll be all the colors with the white in between. And at this point, I just go until I kind of get to the opposite side, and then I'll start decreasing it to the corner. My plan is to start and end with the pink. So I have the pink, the green, the purple, and then the last color will be the blue. And then once I do the strip of white after this blue, I'll start with the blue again and work my way back down to the pink. So when it hangs down, it should be identical from that way. Again, this is my first crochet project, so there was definitely a learning curve to that, and I actually filmed a little vlog. It's about 2 minutes pre-editing, so of my experience on it on the first time. So I'm going to insert that here so you can hear a little bit more about my experience with crochet. So this is a crochet project that I'm working on. This is my first crochet garment, and I'm using mini skeins from Manos del Uruguay on the Fino base, which is merino and silk. I think they're 20-gram minis each, but I'll weigh them and make sure. And this is the wrap so far. So you knit it on the bias, and you can just tell I'm not really getting like a right corner here, which I feel like I should have been. So this would kind of go up and this would go out, but that's okay. I'm sure it blocks and works itself out just fine. You can also tell my edge is pretty wonky, which is okay. Again, this is my first crochet project, but I watched some more YouTube videos, and it's funny, you can see at the beginning it gets a little wonky here, but I did pretty good, and it's just gotten really bad through the middle here, and same thing here. This edge is like perfect, and then at the end it just gets very wonky. So I'm actually going to rip this out and start over. I think that's fine. It wasn't that much work, and while I don't care if the beginning is too wonky, especially for a beginner and it's a wrap, so I don't think it would really be seen. I think it'll be good practice to redo it. So probably by the end of the shawl, I'll say it would have been enough practice on its own anyway, but that's fine. And also, like, look how cool this yarn is crocheting up. If you look at the mini skein, this is an identical one. And again, it's early in the morning with the lights on, but I mean, you can see some of the variation, but it's pretty tonal. Like, these all look to me very tonal.
And then when you crochet it up, it's so variegated and it's so pretty. It's very subtle variegation. It's not like pooling or anything in a crazy way. It's just crocheting up very differently than I thought, and I love it.
All right, so you can see how wonky it was. You can see how I wasn't crocheting correct at all. If you compare, you know, it's just not as meshy as that was before. The ends are so much straighter, and maybe expert crocheters watching that video can see exactly what I did wrong, but there were a couple of things. One, I think I was going into the wrong stitch on the end, so instead of kind of skipping one, I think I was going in right at the end, which is why it kind of bubbled up on the ends. In addition, when you crochet and you go through both loops of this top stitch here, I was only going through one, so I think that didn't help either. But anyway, so like I said in the video, I did watch some more YouTube videos on how to crochet. I think I kind of just like did it the first time without ever looking it up. And so just watched a couple more videos on how to do it, and really just for a couple of minutes, and then I was able to do this. So it's really not that hard. Good beginner pattern, and I'm sure by the end of I finish this, I'll feel like I know really how to single and double crochet pretty well. So again, so far so good. And I've really been working on this a lot. I have to look at it, so it's not always the best TV project because I have to look down on it, but it's getting better, and I'm enjoying it. So it is what it is. Again, it's a single ply yarn, so it's really soft. My first batch of it that you saw, kind of that like really holey looking thing, that was really drapey and hung really nice. So it was like light and airy and soft. This is definitely more dense, which is good for warmth, and it's still drapey, but it's a much more dense pattern than my first attempt was. So anyway, that is my adventure in crocheting. Again, that is what I pretty much have been working on, but I do have some socks to show you as well. The other thing I just wanted to mention about the crochet project is that is another project that I hadn't yet cast on at my second cast on party with my mom. So if you haven't seen that yet, I did a cast on party and I chatted with my mom. And I hadn't cast on that crochet project, but I kind of showed it there. So far that second sock is done, and I made good progress on that crochet project, keeping in mind that I knit most of that first mini skein before I frogged it, and then knitted again plus the green, and now I've started the purple. So a lot of progress since that visit, which maybe was a month ago at this point, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. And so yeah, so that has primarily been the progress since then, which I thought was pretty good. But I do have a pair of socks. This is a pair of vanilla socks that I cast on during my first cast on party, and you can see I just wasn't in a vanilla spot. I think I was working on my Drakenfell shawl still, and then my Altheta sweater was a lot of stockinette, so I really didn't work on this too much. I have picked it up kind of in between projects, so if I'm on a work call or something, I'll work on these. So this is yarn from Laser Sheep Yarns. It's the Fish Are Friends Not Food colorway, which is a Finding Nemo reference, and you can kind of see the Finding Nemo color. So it's a lot of white, but then the bright orange, gray, black, and blue, the different blues, actually a couple of different blues in there. I did a contrast toe with black yarn, and I'm knitting these 2 at a time on my long cable, so 2 at a time magic loop. I like doing vanilla socks 2 at a time because it's just that much longer of a time that it's vanilla before you get to the heels and things. So most of my vanilla projects I like to bring to the movies, or I like to have them if I'm reading and I don't want to get interrupted by having a heel or the cuff. So by doing it 2 at a time, it's just double the time that it stays in a vanilla form before I have to work on it. And then I can just bang both heels out at once, and so then it's back. So again, knitting those 2 at a time, no pressure when I have them, but the sweater, stockinette sweater is done. The crochet project is not a reading project, so definitely can take these back out. I'm probably an inch, it's
It's about 6 inches. It's almost 6 inches. So I can do a couple more inches before I do the heel. So maybe another 1.5 inches or so before I do the heels. So maybe I'll plan to get that done in the next few days to make these vanilla socks again. So the last whip I'm gonna show is one that I show every once in a while, but again, I'm only gonna be doing these recap videos like once a month now, so I might just bring it up every single time. But this is my scrap blanket, the northeasterly blanket. This is my northeasterly blanket. This is the part you would have seen before, and then I'm getting to the end here of this last column. So you can kind of see that column. So I did a video where I picked out the yarns that I was going to use for this. They're now mostly done. I'm on the last one that I've picked out. These must have been shorter because it's not quite lined up with the last one. So I might grab another if I can fit another one in. So again, this is a northeasterly blanket. I'm knitting this out of scraps from my own hand-dyed yarn. This isn't a base that I have. This is just knit picks that I bought when I was first learning how to dye. So a lot of these were just me testing, trying out dyeing. Number one, I'm trying to get this out from underneath my cat, who is now back on my lap. So a lot of these were just me testing, dyeing, playing with different techniques and colors and mixing. And it's not a yarn I'm going to sell because it's not a base that I sell. And so I just kept them for myself, and I'm making this kind of memory, learning how to dye blanket. They're 5-gram minis, give or take. You can tell some are bigger than others. And I have a bag of them left. So I've mentioned this before, but this will be a lap blanket. So just like if I'm sitting at the computer, which is perfect now with all the work from home we're doing. I don't know if everyone out there is still working from home, but my company has no plans to bring us back anytime soon. So I will be working from home indefinitely. And it's probably, like I've said before, it's probably a good length. I would probably do another column or so to make it wide enough. And so once that's done, I might use the scraps for something else or just make it bigger. We'll see how much I have left at the end. So yeah, I'm using size 1 DP ends and just kind of working on this before bed as I can. I actually really like this color that I'm working on now. It's like pinks and blues, purples, and then like a little hint of some orange in there. So maybe that will have to come back and be a colorway. You can see some of these are like early iterations of colors. So like that's like plotzing. You can see this is like Love at First Sight. I've shown these before. So anyway, just playing with dyeing. So still making progress on this. I've done quite a few of them since I've last showed it to you, and I'm gonna have to pick out new colors once I finish up that one that I'm working on. You do weave in the ends as you go. I'm not 100% sure if A, I'm doing it right, or B, if it's so secure. So I haven't like thought about if I'm going to try and weave them in a little bit more. If you have knit this blanket and you did weave them in as you go, let me know how that held up and if it's something I should worry about or not, because right now I'm a little worried. Okay, the last whip is one that I'm not actively working on, but I did cast it on during the cast on party, so I did want to show it just to kind of give a little bit more information about it and talk about it a little bit more. But this is another pair of vanilla socks that I cast on. And the reason why I cast on another pair of vanilla socks is because in my mind, you always need a vanilla sock ready to go. And at some point, those socks I showed you are going to be at the heel. And when I get to the heel on them, that is going to be the moment that I really need a vanilla pair of socks, you know, and then I'll have to do the heels and they won't be ready. So I like to have vanilla socks ready to go always at the beginning of, so I always knit them toe up. So I like them right after you finish the toe or right after you finish the heel. So you have a lot of vanilla left to go. Again, I used to knit on them a lot during movies. We haven't been going to the movies. Obviously, the movies aren't open, or while I'm reading or something like that. And right when you sit down and get comfortable, you're at the heel. So
trying to prevent that from happening. So I cast on another vanilla sock during my cast on party, and I'm using flexi flips for these. So you can see it's on the 2 needles. They're short cabled needle that or they're short DPNs that have a cable in the middle, and you use 2 of them and then you knit with the 3rd one. So this toe that I cast on, this is just from Webs. They're Valley Yarns, Huntington in A color. I bought a few of these balls back in the day just to have contrast heels, cuffs and toes in various colors. And this is the 3rd needle, so you can kind of see if you haven't seen flexi flips before. And then the main color that I'm going to use is from Jinx Yarns, and it's the Gingerbread House colorway. It's a self-striping colorway. It is a Christmas color, but by the time I get around to these, it'll probably be Christmas time. This is her power sock base, which is a BFL nylon base, which means they'll hold up really well. I love knitting socks with BFL yarn, and so even though they're not as soft as merino, they will hold up for longer. So and for me, they are definitely soft. So I'm knitting this, and again, I said I like to do vanilla socks 2 at a time, but I wanted to try out the flexi flips, and I was working on the magnolia sock, so I might, if I finish the Finding Nemo vanilla socks, I might transfer this, or I might just do the vanilla socks with the flexi flips. We'll see, or put this on holders and cast on a pattern sock. I don't know, we'll see. But for now, that is that. And I do find you don't need to put it into a needle cozy to keep the sock on the needles. However, and these are not super sharp. I've had needles like go through the project bag DPNs, which is why I like to use the needle cozy also. You know what I'm thinking? So my needle cozy that I use a lot is from the Scrappy thread. I think it's right behind me. So when I knit socks, I like to use DPNs. So this is my needle cozy from the Scrappy thread. She's on Etsy and she has really great stuff. And you can see my DPNs live in here. So I use size 0 DPNs. These are the Knitter's Pride ones. And that's how I prefer to do it. So I just keep the DPNs in there, and they live in there. I have another one of these that's longer, and so these DPNs don't fit in there, which means they fall out, like it's too long, the buttons are too far apart. But now I'm thinking maybe that would be perfect for this. So anyway, side note, we'll try that out. So anyway, that is the 2nd pair of vanilla socks that I have ready to go when I need it, if I need a vanilla socks, and the other ones are at the heel. Because we all have our rules, right? And that's just one of mine. Okay, so like I said, that is it for the projects. I have been doing a lot of spinning and I'm excited about it. I'm so close to finishing my very first braid that I've been working on for years. And so I will be doing a spinning vlog about that soon. And so that's that. Look for the finished object post on Friday with the magnolia socks, and then next week we'll have our Dye With Me skein number 2. So if you haven't seen it, I have a Dye With Me series going on right now. We are dyeing up a fade kit together, and so what happens is I kind of look for input from all of you guys about what I want to see, about what you want to see in the next skein, and then I dye it up, and then we kind of can talk about it from there. And I do have skein number 1's Dye With Me up, so you can go check that out. This is the skein. It's a really pretty pink and green skein. It's a fall theme skein, so it's got some browns on there. And we are going to be dyeing up the next skein 1 week from today. So if you want to participate, you do get entered for the giveaway if you comment on the video or use the hashtag on YouTube. So go check out that video and watch me dye the skein up, and then let me know what we should do next. In other news for the shop, fall colorways in general are going to be getting released soon, so keep an eye out for that. You can follow me here by subscribing, or over on Instagram at agirlandherwool, and so you can look out for those announcements. Definitely will be having plenty of fall yarn ready for you as soon as I can, as well as some mini skein sets and all the fun things I like to dye up. So keep an eye out for that. Hope you're all doing well, and I will see you soon.
Bye.